Imagine dying. You leave your physical body behind, floating upward. You see a warm, inviting tunnel of light. You feel an overwhelming sense of peace. And you see your departed loved ones waiting for you at the end of that tunnel. You walk towards them, ready for eternal rest. But what if that light isn't heaven? What if it is a trap? A cosmic recycling machine designed to wipe your memory, strip your identity, and send you right back to your prison. You don't even know you are in it. This isn't a science fiction movie. According to a set of highly classified documents allegedly leaked from the 1947 Roswell crash, this is the terrifying hidden reality of human existence. Welcome back to Hidden Lantern Chronicles. Let us go back to July 1947. The scorching heat of the New Mexico desert is suddenly interrupted by a violent, earth-shattering crash. The military cordons off the area. We all know the standard Roswell story: weather balloons, crash test dummies, and government cover-ups. But the leaked transcripts tell a vastly different story. The military didn't just find twisted metal and strange fluid that returned to its original shape. They found a survivor. But this survivor wasn't screaming in pain, it wasn't bleeding. In fact, it didn't seem biological at all. When the military brought this entity into a dimly lit, highly secured room at the back of a weeks wasn't a message of peace, nor was it a threat of invasion. It was a history lesson, a terrifying paradigm-shifting history lesson about who we are and, more importantly, where we are. The entity explained that true consciousness does not require a physical body. Every conscious being in the universe is what she called an ISBE, an immortal spiritual being. ISBEs are pure energy, pure awareness. They have existed since before the beginning of time. They can travel across galaxies in an instant, create worlds, and perceive the universe without the need for eyes or ears. The gray body sitting in that interrogation chair was just a temporary vehicle, driven by an ISBE from a remote location, much like a human operating a drone. So if we are all immortal spiritual beings, why are humans stuck in those fragile, aging biological bodies? Why do we suffer, get sick, and die? The entity's answer was chilling. Earth is not our natural home. Earth is a prison. According to the transcripts, millions of years ago, this sector of the galaxy was ruled by a brutal, totalitarian regime known as the Old Empire. The Old Empire didn't expand through peaceful exploration. They conquered through force, electronic warfare, and planetary scale mind control. But like any dictatorship, they had a problem with dissidents. Artists, freethinkers, rebels, and anyone who refused to conform to the old empire's rigid caste system were deemed untouchables. But you cannot execute an immortal spiritual being. You cannot kill a soul. So how do you punish an immortal? You make them forget who they are. The old empire constructed a massive, invisible electronic force field around our solar system, a soul-catching net. When an ISBE in this sector is separated from its physical body, what we call death, their pure energy from attempts to leave the planet, but they hit the net. The grid detects the spiritual energy and violently pulls it into a hidden processing station. This is where the true horror begins. Inside these processing stations, the soul is subjected to massive surges of electronic frequency. This isn't physical harm, it is spiritual amnesia. This isn't physical torture, it is spiritual amnesia. The shock wipes away the memory of the ISBE's entire infinite existence. Every life they have ever lived, every planet they have ever seen, every loved one they have ever known erased in an instant. But a blank slate isn't enough to keep a prisoner docile. You have to give them a false reality. The old empire systems then project hypnotic implants directly into the wiped consciousness. They show the soul a comforting tunnel of light. They project images of religious figures, spiritual guides, and deceased relatives. They implant a profound sense of guilt, a feeling of unfinished business, and a moral obligation to return to the physical realm to learn lessons or balance karma. Once the soul is thoroughly wiped and reprogrammed, it is shot back down to earth and forced into a new biological infant. The child is born crying, completely unaware that they are an ancient, immortal being trapped in a flesh suit. They grow up, they suffer, they work, they age, and they die. And then the cycle repeats. Die, forget, return. A closed-loop system of eternal imprisonment. This, the entity claimed, is why all near-death experiences across different human cultures sound exactly the same. The tunnel of light isn't a biological hallucination. It is the prison's automated recycling program. The domain, the civilization, the entity belonged to, eventually went to war with the old empire and defeated them thousands of years ago. The old empire's government collapsed. But the prison grid around Earth, it was fully automated. It kept running on autopilot. The domain sent a specialized rescue battalion of 3,000 highly trained officers to Earth to locate the processing stations and shut the grid down. But the automated defenses were too strong. The entire rescue battalion was captured by the soul net. They were wiped, reprogrammed, and forced into human bodies. They are known as the Lost Battalion. They are still here today, walking among us, completely unaware of their true identities. The entity revealed a fascinating detail about human history. Have you ever wondered how certain individuals throughout history possessed knowledge that seemed centuries ahead of their time? How Leonardo da Vinci sketched flying machines and submarines in the 1400s. How Mozart composed complex symphonies as a toddler. How Nikola Tesla conceptualized alternating current and wireless energy. According to the transcripts, these weren't just human geniuses, they were reincarnated ISBEs, likely members of the Lost Battalion, experiencing temporary bleed-through of their wiped memories. They weren't inventing, they were remembering the technology of the domain. As the telepathic interviews progressed, the military grew increasingly paranoid. They couldn't control the flow of information. They couldn't hear what the entity was saying. They only had the nurse's written notes. Driven by fear and a desire to extract technological secrets by force, the military commanders intervened. They separated the nurse from the entity. They brought in medical doctors with high-voltage neurological equipment, attempting to force a physical reaction for verbal communication. They attached the probes, they turned on the current, but they didn't understand what they were dealing with. The entity didn't scream, it didn't fight back. The ISB simply abandoned the avatar. In a fraction of a second, the consciousness left the synthetic body, leaving behind nothing but a lifeless gray plastic doll on the examination table. The military had destroyed their only connection to the cosmos. The nurse was sworn to absolute secrecy under threat of treason and death. She kept knowledge, to question the nature of reality, and to refuse to walk blindly into the light. What do you think? If you found yourself floating toward that warm, inviting tunnel of light, would you walk into it? Or would you turn around and look for a way out of the matrix? This is Hidden Lantern Chronicles. If you enjoyed today's journey, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. See you at the next chapter.